When you're new, it's scary. Like, like this big, scary, dangerous engine is running and it's heavy. And you feel like, oh no, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get this thing to work? We're brand new to starting a bike. This is my starter bike. I got this right after I got my MSF endorsement, and I was scared to death because it was a lot heavier than the bike I practiced on, and also I knew nothing about riding a motorcycle even after my MSF course. So to turn the bike on, first of all, to just understand the balance of it, these are heavy. So I'm 6'2". So people think, oh, I'm too small for a heavy bike. I don't have any more luck lifting a bike for 800 pounds than a woman who's 5'2". So it's really not about the size. I get it that you can stand up and put your feet down, but if you master these slow speed skills, you don't really have to worry about putting your feet down. I just was pulling into this parking lot. I stopped at the light, and if I didn't do my normal smooth stop, I hit some gravel with my foot. So what happens is your foot slides out a little bit when there's uneven surface, or there's gravel, or there's a stick or a twig that can roll, and your foot will slide out. And if you're just a little bit not sure of yourself, especially being a smaller person, you're not going to be able to catch that. So that's what I'm going to teach here today, is about let the clutch out with your preload, and you'll be able to stand the bike back up and get your balance. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start the bike, push this button here, and then you turn this lever there, and then you squeeze in the clutch here, and you put your foot underneath this lever, and it puts the bike into neutral. So as you can see, now we're in neutral. And you kind of have to find it sometimes. It took me a long time to be able to get the bike into neutral. You can rock it back and forth to get it to like loosen up whatever gear it's in. You kick this down as many times until it goes so you can't kick it down anymore. Just be gentle with it. You don't have to reef on it. And then you kind of slightly lift up one click with your foot. And that takes a little bit. I can tell you that as a new rider, it took me forever to be able to get my bike into neutral. Then you just push the start button, which is over here. So here's the on-off switch, and then here is the start button. You just push that. And when you're new, it's scary. Like, like this big, scary, dangerous engine is running, and it's heavy. And you feel like, oh no, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get this thing to work? So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're in first gear. So you pull in the clutch. So you pull in the clutch to switch the gears. This over here is the front brake. And down here is the rear brake. I have an extension on my rear brake that makes it go further out so that I can, my legs, because they're long, so I'm not cramped up with the brake. So I have a good placement, my foot on the brake. So the first thing you want to do is, like, I'm on a flat surface, so I don't have to worry about the bike moving while I'm switching gears. But I usually pull the front brake, and just to hold the bike still, I pull in the clutch, I press down, and then you see it goes out of neutral and it's in first gear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the rear brake. So that means I rest my foot. I just rest it lightly. You can see the rear brake is not on. If I going less than 8 miles an hour. Just don't do it. I call it the automatic tip over button. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ease the clutch out, and I'm going to see where it grabs. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to see where it grabs. See? So right there where the front tire is going to move, you see me moving my hand in and out. The front tire is moving a little bit. Okay, that's called the bite. That's where the clutch grabs and it starts to move the bike. Now most people just let the clutch out, kind of slowly, but let it all the way out. What we're going to be doing with this slow speed is we're going to be working right before the clutch bites, and we're going to be working right where the clutch bites, and maybe a little bit beyond the clutch biting, but we're not going to be letting the bike into first gear all the way. And we're going to be doing that with the throttle loaded a little bit. So we're going to rev the throttle up so you can see my revs come up. You see right here. That is preloading the bike. So when you bring the throttle into preload and you slowly release the clutch, you keep your eyes facing forward. There's no need to ever look down here at your bike while you're riding it. I've got my rear brake covered. I know I'm in first gear. I'm going to bring my throttle up to about 1800, maybe 2000. And then I'm going to let it go into the friction point where it just grabs, right there, right there. See where it's just bringing my bike a little bit? That's where I'm going to hold it. Now you can see my clutch. If I need to move, I give it a little clutch, but I don't have my foot on the brake, and I'm leaving my throttle the same. Now, when I go to stop, I apply a little bit of rear brake as I bring the bike slower and slower. I'll bring the clutch in, and I won't take my hand off the throttle until I'm stopped. We're going to go to each cone, slow ride, smooth start, and a smooth stop. So, cover the rear brake, bring the throttle up, release the clutch into the friction zone, lift the foot, go straight, stop, pull the clutch in, then release the throttle. So we're applying the rear brake as we're pulling the clutch in, and we're leaving the throttle where it is until we put our foot down. So that one, I was kind of tipping, and I put my foot down fast. We want to have the bike standing completely level when we put our foot down. So that's exercise one. Exercise one is something that you want to if you're a brand new rider or you've never done these exercises before, you want to stay on exercise one until you feel comfortable with moving slowly short distances. So moving slowly short distances and not panicking and grabbing that front brake and putting both feet down. You want to be going so slow that you could literally stop yourself with your foot without even braking. Okay, so all of that is done by not letting the clutch out too far. And a lot of times what we see is you can get people to put their throttle up, right? They get the revs high, because you want to keep the revs high because that's what engages the motor or the rear wheel. So when you have that clutch, this is all clutch work here. So you want to understand where 0 is, which is right before it grabs, where 1 is, which is just at the bite, and then beyond 1 is 2, where you're not fully letting the clutch out, you're just allowing it to stay in one little spot where it's engaged, but it's not fully out. As soon as you let the clutch fully out, the full amount of the throttle is going to take over and you're going to go fast. So we want to go super slow. We're talking like 2 miles an hour here in these drills, 1 to 2 miles an hour when you're going from one cone to the next. When do we use exercise 1? Exercise 1 is used every single time you ride the bike. Every single time you ride the bike is when you use exercise 1. Here's what exercise 1 helps you prevent. Pushing the bike around, turning it around, 3-point turning it around, U-turn, moving it at a gas station, moving it into a parking spot, going through a narrow space. Say there's a car next to you and you've got one spot to get your bike in. All of these conditions on the road use exercise 1. And if you are small, then exercise 1 is going to come in more handy. I don't want to be pushing my bike anywhere because it's too heavy. And I don't need to be lugging it around when I could just ride it. So we're going to learn to just ride it. And I can encourage you that if you learn that clutch control, and then here's a little secret that I do on the clutch. The little secret I have is I get my hand out as far as I can on the clutch. This one here has grips, but I only use these last couple of little dips here in my clutch to grab it. And I have my hand way out on the end. Why? Because it gives me a lot more dexterity and leverage with the clutch. So I can move it very finely, being way out on the end. So that's a little trick. Another thing we have is on my Street Glide, I have an Oberlin. And the Oberlin clutch allows you to make this pull closer, and it also allows you to make it like less difficult to pull. You know, our hands get really tired pulling the clutch in all the time, especially with all this clutch work. Your hand's going to get stronger, I guarantee you. But if you have the Oberlin clutch, it will make it a lot easier. I can show you that on my Street Glide when I get it back from the shop. But that will certainly help you with your clutch control. So if you've got a really tight clutch, don't despair. There is a solution for that. And don't worry, your hands will get stronger. You can also use those little grip exercise things that help you strengthen your hands. So you need both hands to be kind of strong. There's a traffic jam, everybody's moving slow. You don't want to be doing this with your bike every 10 feet or every 5 feet and moving up, and then, or you don't want to be leaving big gaps between you and the cars in front of you because you can't control your bike. So you want to ride along with the slow traffic. So I'm going to start with covering rear brake like we always do. But I'm gonna leave my foot off the brake because this exercise here is all about the clutch control. Moving it in and moving it out, just small amounts, in and out. So I want you to be able to see my clutch. I'm gonna leave my throttle where it is as I preload it. And I'm just gonna go straight all the way through these cones. So no rear brake on this exercise. You can see I don't need any power because I'm kind of going downhill. Now I'm going to let the clutch out a little bit. Notice my wheel is not straight. And I'm going super slow, and I'm going to come. Cars are all stopping. I'm going to slow down. So notice I took my time. I straightened out my wheel. I pulled my clutch in slowly as I applied the rear brake, and I put my foot down. Now we're gonna go back this way on the slow ride. No rear brake, and I'm just gonna ease into. I'm gonna bring the throttle up, and then I'm gonna ease into the clutch. But I've got to control it because I'm not gonna want to shoot out of a cannon. We want to go really slow while we do this exercise, so we can stay without fear, even if there's cars right in front of us, that we're going to ride along with cars in traffic at a slow rate, so there's a traffic jam. Now what you do is I'm going pretty fast here. I'm just coasting. But I can use my front wheel until I start to feel the tip. I really don't need to go into the clutch again. Now I go into the clutch and I put the rear brake on. But we don't want to ever be turning the wheel while we apply the rear brake and stop. We want to always bring the bike to the straight position, wheel is straight, before we apply the brake. No brake, all clutch work. Slow as you can go.